audience. Alrighty. $35,000. That's the amount of money you could use to go to a car lot and take a car home with you that day. Or it's the amount of money you're going to graduate in debt with. On average, the class of 2015 from colleges are going to have to pay back $35,000 in debt. And I'm here today to talk to you guys about why tuition for colleges should be free. It affects me directly because I'm a first-year college student, and I'm looking in debt right in the face. My first year is paid for, but the next 3, I have no idea. I know many college students are either in worse condition than I am or the same position. We all here are college students, and so we're all affected. And debt is something that not only happens to you now, but follows you for the rest of your life. And in today's society, it's nearly impossible to avoid debt. And you have to go to school to get a career. Out of high school, you can get a job, but it's not stable, and so you're going to find yourself in a lower income situation later on. And so today, you have to go to school, go into debt to get a job to pay off that debt. And it's just a vicious cycle. Specifically, I'll be talking about the average debt and how many years it takes to pay that off, the success in Sweden and other countries when they made college free. I'm going to talk to you guys about lower income families and how it affects them. And I'm also going to mention room and board and technology fees and how those should still come at a cost. So first, we're going to talk about the amount of debt you pay and how many years it takes to pay that off. As stated on collegenet.org, the U.S. has $1.1 trillion in debt from college students. A standard payment plan puts you on a 10-year track, but realistically, it's going to take you 21 years to pay those off. One Wisconsin institute, in the article, The Impact of Student Loan Debt on the National Economy, did a survey and did a mathematical process that accumulated 21 years in paying that off. So basically, you graduate at 22, and you're not debt-free until you're 43. Most people have a plan for their life by then. Their kids could be in high school by then, and they are still paying off their college loans. And debt is not just something that affects you in your 20s or that you can get in a subsidized program and pay that off. It affects everything. It is a looming cloud that causes a lot of problems for a lot of people. And this is why. We live in a credit-based society, and so a 3-digit score basically tells you your way of life and how you're going to live. I have a chart from blackboardcreditscore.com. This is it, and I'm going to pass it around. It just talks about how if you're on the higher level, the benefits you get, which include you have a favorable interest rate, maybe at like a 4 or 5% rather than a 15 or 16%. When you go to rent something, you're going to have a lower lease payment. You have a higher likelihood of qualifying for whatever kind of credit-based thing you're applying for, whether that's a loan for a home or a loan for a car or getting your kids into college. And you have access to incentives, and you're going to put down a lower down payment on anything that you buy. If you fall kind of in this lower but not super low thing, you're going to have a higher down payment. You might have to get a cosigner, which are a pain. My mom has had to go through that forever. And you may not even qualify for what you're trying to pay for. And if you're 450 or lower, your credit's going to be denied altogether. And credit comes from how you pay back things like credit card debt, your car loan, or your student loans, which are going to be the biggest thing for the future generation. So I'm going to pass that around for you guys to look at. And there are also lots of emotional effects that come from debt. Sleepless nights, constant worrying. Every time the phone rings, you think it's a collection agency. And it's so easy to ruin your credit and so hard to build it back up. If you miss one payment, you're docked a score. But if you make 6 good payments after that, you're not going to get it up to the thing it was before that one missed payment. So your 3-digit credit score that you're going to have once you leave college and you start paying back your loans with whatever temporary job you have is going to decide how you live the next 10 to 15 years. And getting into programs that are going to help you pay that off, while they're beneficial, are going to take a long time, and you're not going to see results right away. Next, I'm going to talk about some countries that have made tuition free and how it's been successful. Countries that have made it free include Sweden, Germany, Finland, Normandy, and then even our friends to the south of Mexico and Brazil have started progressively making tuition free. Debt and its negative effects is not just a national awareness, it's global. Everyone is affected everywhere you go, and it's going to follow you everywhere you go. So other countries have started to identify that, and they see education as more of a public priority than a private institution. Some of these countries, though, have a lower graduation rate just because since everyone can go to college, it's less favorable, it's less competitive. However, Germany, which is just like the U.S. is run in states, actually outranks us in its graduate percentage, and that is found on bbc.com for the magazine article. Now, necessarily, no tuition doesn't really mean no debt. They still expect students to cover their living costs. So if you wanted to live on campus, your room and board, or your apartment or house, your books, your technology fees, and stuff like that. But making tuition free gives people options. Everyone at least has the option to go to school, which doesn't happen here in the U.S. In talking about creating options, I'm going to introduce you guys to a lower income family situation. So to some, just depending on their background or their exposure, they think everyone has an option, and that one of those options is to go to school. But those people tend to forget that a large portion of our nation is living in poverty. According to the Huffington Post, that proportion is 14.5%. And when we have that much living in poverty, you tend to see a recycling influence happening. And by recycling influence, I mean that the rich influence the rich, the middle class influences the middle class, and the poor influence the poor. So you don't see a poor man influencing a rich man, vice versa, or a middle class really going either way. And when you have this recycled influence, minds are restricted to their bubble. So when a kid is born in a poor family, he tends to think poor, which is not negative or positive, it's just his bubble. So he can never think of college like a rich kid can think of college, because it's just not attainable, most likely, without him going into debt, and the amount of debt he would have to go into almost doesn't seem worth it when he could go get a job right out of high school. And when someone is restricted to that mindset, it doesn't just negatively affect him and his way of life, it's going to negatively affect his community and the society, because we are cheating ourselves of great minds who are just maybe born below the line of opportunity. But I want to clarify that not everything in the college package should be free. That's just not realistic. Room and board, since that's an optional thing for people, that should still come at a cost, because people can choose whether or not it's worth to live on campus or to commute from home. Books, while they can get expensive, on average $500 a semester, there are so many outlets to getting cheaper books. There's Amazon.com, there's Chegg, you can buy used books, or you can do rental books, which brings that cost down. And then technology. Most places have public libraries where you can get internet access and Microsoft Office. But even if you still wanted your own laptop, a laptop is something that you can afford with one summer of a minimum wage job, which everyone can get. Tuition, unlike these other things, is not optional. To go to school, you're going to have to pay tuition. You don't have a choice there, and it's not affordable with just a high school's worth of work. I worked all 4 years in high school. I could never afford tuition with that. So that should be free, just because people deserve options, and what they do with those options is up to them. But they should have them there. So I want to leave you guys with that, and the reasons I think that college tuition should be free is that debt is something that we don't really think about right now, but when we're 30 or 35, it's going to be staring you in the face, and it's a scary thing, and it can have lots of negative effects financially and emotionally. Also, other countries have seen success, so if we know it works, it should work here. And lower income children and the future generations deserve all the opportunities as everyone else who is born above the line of opportunity. But room and board and things like that should come at a cost, because those things are optional. The last thing I want to give you guys today is a quote from our President Obama, and he says, "The source of America's prosperity has never merely been how we accumulate wealth, but how we educate our people. In the 21st century, jobs can be shipped off to anywhere with internet. Education is no longer just a pathway to success, it is a prerequisite for success." And so, everyone deserves that. Thank you, guys. I love it all of you.